Hello, hi, good afternoon, hi everyone. Sorry for being late for this technology issue. Welcome to our last day for our marketing summit, and we have the anesthesia session now, and then later we'll have our acute session. So, because we lost it some time, I will go directly into our today program, and today we have a great guest speaker. We have our colleague Amia Mehta from IPAC region. She is the head of the pharmaceutical marketing in IPAC region. Amia will share with us very nice topic today, which is really one of the challenging topics we are facing now about supreme environmental issues. So for today, we have two presentations. So if we go to next slide, we'll see our agenda. We'll start with some sort of our strategic focus for ISIMIA. I promise this will be a very short presentation. I will take over, and then we'll leave more time for Amia to speak and to present about the environmental issue and some sort of how to handle it in a way that could help us to handle it. Before I go to this, I just would like to ask questions, and I just need to listen to you and hear about the question, about the challenges you see in our anesthesia business at the moment. I know that we have some challenges and many, so in next question, I will share with you some, I would say, challenges, and please make sure to select which is the most, I would say, important, one only most important. So our colleagues in the studio, if they can share the question now, please. So in your opinion, what is the main challenge? And please select only one that you cannot grow anesthesia business. We have some like 6 or 7 answers, and we appreciate if you can select which only one, which is for you is the most important, because this will help. We know that we have challenges, but we need to know for the major percentage, what is the main challenge, as you can see. I will give you 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. So if you allow me now, I will go back again. The computer issue has been solved. So I will go back from the computer. Thank you. Okay, great. So maybe we can give 5 more seconds. So we have only few participants. So only 7 voted. So we need 1 is remaining. Okay, so we have 7 voted. So as I can see here, we have 3 very common VAPS issues, limited VAPS investment, and supreme environmental claims. And hopefully today we'll have a very nice, I would say, chat and discussions about this issue, and we see how we can handle this changing now. Okay, now the VAPS, okay, and claims as well, environmental claims about supreme and supply and products constraint, and Civo generics is the least. And I'm happy that don't see any issue about JX product registration, business model changes, or others. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So it's very clear now. And let us to go directly to our next slide. So before I go to our presentations, I have to really thank you, and I really wish to celebrate with you some great achievements happened year to date in our anesthesia business in whole ISIMIA. First, as you can see, ISIMIA is growing by 30% this year, which is really magnificent growth. This means that we are back to normal after all the COVID situation. This is the first thing. And the good thing is that as well, the next one, it is the Supreme. Supreme is growing by 45%, which is great. So although all what we hear about the environmental claims, although the challenges, I fully appreciate all the efforts has been done and is still continuing to be done, but I am really, really appreciating that we are growing year to date by 45%. If you go to next achievement, and I would like to tell you also, we had a very successful Civo and Supreme launch in Tunisia. And next one is we had also Sivo and Supreme launch in Serbia as well this year. Very successful 2 Supreme launches, beside of course Sivo. If we go to the next achievement, we see that Turkey, and great appreciation to our Turkish team with all the efforts they are doing, with all the challenges they are facing. They are growing by even more than 500% this year. They are doing magnificent growth, full appreciation. If we go to the next achievement as well, which is about market share, we are so happy that Russia Anesthesia team became now the market leader, our Baxter Anaesthesia in Russia, and Supreme alone 35% market share, full appreciation. And just for your info, 3-4 years ago, we were not having except 2% share of Supreme in Russia. So with all this great achievement and success in market share, really full appreciation. Last but not least, which is really one of our most professional team, with the lead of the marketing and the sales team in Poland, having more than even 75% market share in such a very tough, mature market, and Supreme having more than 45% market share. So thank you very much. Great achievements, great results on all aspects, on sales, on gross, I would say, on market share gain, even in pricing. So great. Thank you very much. And this gives us the confidence that although all the challenges, the anesthesia will keep growing in our SMEA region. Our SMEA is not, I would say, stopping at challenges, but easily, as I remember saying the first presentation, Maria has shared with us that we are overcoming the obstacles. We are not stopped by the obstacles and say we cannot do anything. Thank you very much. And if we go to the next slide about our main strategic imperatives, and this is not changing a lot. Maybe the main change is coming now in the more and raising the voice about Supreme environmental issues, which again, we are trying to do, we are to tackle in the coming, I would say, month, and we hopefully will be able to overcome all these challenges as done before. The main strategic imperatives still Supreme, our main important product. Still, we need to do Supreme therapy adoption and the clinical setting. The main challenges for Supreme is Sivo perceived as good as Supreme, and Supreme may be environmental hazardous. And the second is that some physicians are not willing to change their practice. And this is the most important too. And as you can see, all the markets which we celebrated, either the gross or the market share achievement, or maybe even the launch, Supreme is the main player. And this is very critically important, really, to focus on Supreme. For Sivo, we'll continue Sivo complete twin strategy as we're working on. And this year, although we have some allocation issues, but more or less, I can say, I would expect, in my personal expectation, more than 90% of our demand has been fulfilled. And the good thing is that also as well, we succeeded to get some price increases, and even we exceeding now our Sivo numbers by around $700,000, which is great. The last two things about the dual gas and how to combine between Sivo and Supreme for the markets having both products together, to combine play the dual gas strategy. What this means that if we have Supreme in the market, then we can combine Sivo as well. If we have Sivo, it's a good opportunity to shift and try to push Supreme as well. Last but not least, as many of you shared, vaporizers is very important element for us. It is a huge investment on us as a company, and also it is a very important element, something like I would say element like important from the following up the consumption utilization rate. This is the main strategic imperative, no major change. If we go to the next slide, which about our strategy, I will not say we have something new, something different, typically the same. The main important focus at the moment is the profitability. We know that there's a huge focus from the company on profitability, and in anesthesia, we enjoy very good margins, especially for Supreme. And this gives us the direction. Supreme is our main product. And although all what we hear about environmental issues, what we hear about some rumors about it, which we'll tackle, nevertheless, still Supreme growing in ISEMIA and still Supreme growing in some markets, still Supreme being used, still many physicians are really using Supreme because it's patient benefits. And this is the most important thing we need to highlight. So our Soprain is clinical selling. Soprain cannot be sold alone. It needs to be promoted, and it's very important. CEVO is compete to win. We need to gain as much as we can market share, as much as we can tenders for CEVO. For ISO, it is the least product, yes, having no promotion, no marketing activities on it, but we use it as to complement our anesthesia portfolio as a house of anesthesia for the three gases, beside the fact that we try to achieve good profitability out of it. Things are improving in ISO specifically for the profitability point, and we need to keep it as something like opportunistic or profitable sales, something like that. If we go to the next slide, maybe I would like to share with you about activities and what we do. We don't have change, but if we click one click more, we need to focus on the peer-to-peer activity. This is the most important, and I think you agree with me that the most successful Supreme activities is happened due to, I would say, the peer-to-peer activities. As Supreme, I always say it is something like a craft which needs someone to teach you how to use this craft. So it is better to come from a physician teaching a physician. We had very successful launches, and all the launches were built on the peer-to-peer activity. Either a speaker come to our country and teach and train our physicians how to use, or we send our physicians to one of our masters centers of excellence or master classes, specifically Germany or maybe others, and to be knowing how to use Supreme. And when we come back, again, he become our advocate. Last but not least, next slide, what I will share with you that is everything is easy? Definitely no. The major issue now, we have many generics and started even to see some generics on Supreme. But if we have another click for, then we'll see that we have even the environmental issue, the greenhouse effect of Supreme is also, I would say, disturbing, claiming against our Supreme. So we cannot say everything is easy, everything is perfect, but we have challenges. And maybe in the next slide, you can see, of course, I received from you many papers about issues about Supreme, about should be disappearing, should not be used, the size of banning it, even some rumor that European Union will ban it. Till the moment we admit that there's some issues in Supreme regarding the environmental issues, in our next presentation, our colleague Amia will show us how to put it into its right perspective. And also, on the other side, we need to make sure that we are not stopping Supreme because of the claims, because there is a major patient benefit on Supreme. I will stop here because I need to give more time to Amia and to welcome her again with us, and also to share her experience from the APAC region, because we have the same almost market dynamics in APAC. We have the same situation where environmental claims coming, although there is no major actions coming from the governments, but they copy and paste what's happening in European countries. And also, it is not easy to use something like our gas capture because it's priced, it's cost. So we would like to utilize how they are dealing with the customers, how they are dealing with this issue into their markets, and then we'll be able to something how we can implement this one. So I will stop here and let us to have maybe by the end around 5 to 10 minutes for the questions. And apologies again for the delay. And now, Amir, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for your time. I know it was a holiday in the past week and maybe today even. Thanks a lot. So all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me here and giving me a chance to discuss this common challenge that we are all facing. I think from your polls and also from the presentation that Michelle showed, it is almost a similar situation that we are facing in APAC. There are some countries like Singapore and Korea, Australia, New Zealand that are really against usage of desflurane and are creating that noise. And this noise is being created uh, by few HCPs, but because it's like an environment concern and everybody thinks so that it is a very of course that it's a very important step, and any HCP would want to take do what they can do in this situation. So when I actually joined in April this year, I realized that there was a lot of confusion around what is the environment challenge, what are the concerns that Subrain is facing, and also as a as a salesperson, as a Baxter marketing person, we are expected to know the issue and also how do you handle it and how do you put it into perspective for yourself as well as for I would say even for the HCP. The first thing that I decided to do was create this deck. This deck is a work in progress. It is still, I'm still adding information as I go on. I'm in the process of creating a backsuit training for our internal sales and marketing teams using this deck as a basis. Hopefully in the next quarter, you will see that coming to life. Any thoughts and feedback regarding this is welcome. This has been okayed by Medical Affairs, so all references are in place. And of course, any questions or any discussions you have, please let me know during or after this. Can we move next? The idea is to answer these frequently asked questions, which is, what is global warming? What is sopranes or desfluranes role in it? How should I stop using it? And, or should I change my entire anesthetic practice? Next. So the objective here is to provide an accurate and high-level education, also to allow a perspective on what is the impact that desflurane or other inhaled anesthetics bring, and what is their overall impact versus all other carbon dioxide equivalents out there. Next. Okay, just going, just starting off, we of course know there are 3 inhaled anesthetics. Just an introduction. The main point to take away from this slide is that isoflurane contains chlorine and it contributes to ozone depletion. But the other 2 inhalation anesthetic gases, which is SIVO and DES, do not have chlorine or bromine, and it does not cause ozone depletion. So as you know that ozone is the protective layer around the Earth's atmosphere. It is important that it stays intact so that the optimum temperature is maintained, and it plays a huge role, in managing and the greenhouse gas effect also. So the first point is this, that we do not, soprane does not cause ozone depletion. Next. The other point is all the thoughts around global warming. So global warming, as you know, is a natural phenomenon. It's not a bad word. In fact, global warming is the reason, greenhouse gases are the reason that life exists on Earth, because they create the optimum temperature. The challenge, of course, comes because of the increased amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which is causing the Earth's temperature to go up. So basically, it's not a bad word. Greenhouse gases are important for our survival. It is a natural phenomenon that has been happening for years on end. Next. And also to put into perspective, the greenhouse effect is caused majorly, of course, it's caused by water vapors present in the atmosphere. It is caused by carbon dioxide, which contributes to up to 24% of this, of absorption of radiation. And there are other gases and other reasons that cause it, which includes nitrous oxide, methane, ozone layer itself, and also chlorofluorocarbons. So if you really look at the whole spectrum of gases, 73% of greenhouse gas effect comes from carbon dioxide, 20% comes from methane, 5% comes from nitrous oxide, which is again from different sources, whether it is medical or agricultural or industrial processes, and then only 2% comes from fluorinated gases. So fluorinated gases, as you know, includes chlorofluorocarbons, hydrofluorocarbons that come out from your refrigerators, from your industrial processes, from your air conditioning processes, etc. And one of those gases, or 2 of those gases, are desflurane and sevoflurane. Next. So there is a lot more information out there, and of course there are a lot of references that I've put there in case you want to go ahead. So basically, when you look at the entire impact of carbon dioxide, so because carbon dioxide is so big, the impact of greenhouse gases is measured in carbon dioxide equivalent rate. So in a year, 52 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent is released into the atmosphere, which causes the greenhouse gas effect, out of which 38 billion tons directly comes from carbon dioxide. And 1 billion tons comes from fluorinated gases, which we earlier saw is around 2%. Out of that, only 3.1 million tons comes from all anesthetists, which includes ISO, which includes to an extent, I would say nitrous oxide, which includes desflurane and sevoflurane, which means that anesthetic gases contribute less than 1%, 0.006% of the total carbon dioxide equivalent emission comes from anesthetics. These anesthetics, or this comes from, to put into perspective, 200 million anesthetic procedures that happen throughout the globe. And another very interesting fact, which is I've just tried to equate it. So if you put the entire 52 billion tons or all the carbon dioxide equivalents into an Olympic size swimming pool, the impact of desflurane would be around 10 teaspoons. So my question is, even if you remove these 10 teaspoons, do you think that you're positively impacting the environment? Those 10 teaspoons, but that 10 teaspoons comes from a huge number of procedures that are actually life-saving, that are actually impacting lives. Next. Also, again, the most important factor that is being considered again and again, and something that is quoted again and again, is the global warming potential. So global warming potential is actually, if you go deeper into the subject, is something which is a mathematical extrapolation of infrared absorption of these anesthetics. But why is it a mathematical extrapolation? Because when a study was conducted to actually check the presence of volatile anesthetics in the atmosphere, or in the upper atmosphere, or in the stratosphere, there was no measurable quantity was detected. So for example, if some desflurane was not detected, SIVO was not detected, which basically means that we are basing all our explanations on global warming potential, which is a mathematical extrapolation only. Also, when you're thinking of impact on the environment, you have to look at the complete life cycle of the product, and I will come to explain more of that in the coming slides. Next. So again, a lot of data for you to go through, and also we are trying to create a story around it. It'll become more clear. But the big takeaway that I want you to have is from this blue box, where we say that if you whenever there is a comparison between impact of the greenhouse gases, we always talk about the cars on the road kind of a situation. So for example, there is a statistic which goes that anesthetic gases is something like an impact of 1 million cars are on added, or the impact that 1 million cars bring or have on the atmosphere. The reality is 1 million cars is a very small number. We are a big planet. In fact, if you look at in US alone, 252 million cars already exist in that country, in US, and 17 million cars are added on an annual basis. So this is 2015 data, and I'm sure that number has gone up. So it is possible to make a small number seem huge by just creating such comparisons, which might or might not be true. Another big point is, if you look at the atmospheric lifetimes, desflurane, even by the mathematical extrapolation, desflurane gets degraded or gets removed automatically from the atmosphere in 9 to 14 years. 9 years to 14 years, it's a range, because some studies say 9 years, some studies say 14 years. Whereas nitrous oxide stays in the atmosphere for more than 100 years. So again, it really, you have to compare it and see how you measure the impact, in what way should we perceive it. Next. So these are the points that I want you to focus on, and I will ask you to look at number 6, which for me is the most important point. So when we look at, when we think about life cycle assessment, when we think about the impact of a product on the environment, we should look at the entire life cycle, which means from its production, the way it was manufactured, usage, and how was it ultimately disposed. If we look at healthcare's impact on the environment, you will realize that 71% of the healthcare impact comes from the production, transport, and disposal of goods and services. that this sectors, which means that healthcare facilities or product actually being used in the healthcare facilities might have a much smaller impact. So if you really want to change the scenario, if you really want to have a positive impact on the environment, then you should think about working with organizations like Baxter, who are focused on being more sustainable, who are focused on reducing our carbon, our own carbon footprint, our own greenhouse gas emissions on the planet. Because it's one planet and one country or one region will get impacted, even though they might not be the ones causing, manufacturing that product or using that product. Honestly, I will leave it up to you to go through these points in detail. I'll move to the next slide. Also, there has to be some perspective around nitrous oxide. There are many countries that are still using nitrous oxide because they think they require it. But at the same point in time, it is a gas that we need to seriously look at if we are serious about global warming. And it is not only produced in the hospitals or due to the medical use of the product, but also because of industrial processes and agricultural processes. It comes from animal manure. Synthetic fertilizer usage causes this, and nitrous oxide leads to ozone layer depletion. So if we want to look at global warming, 6% of that impact comes from nitrous oxide, which is way bigger than 0.006% that comes from other inhaled anesthetics. And all the Montreal protocols and all the climate protocols have called out nitrous oxide, methane, and carbon dioxide as the key issues. They have not called out desflurane or inhaled anesthetics as as the problem area. Next. Another gas is, of course, methane. So there is a very interesting study that I found that says that a single operation theater procedure, a single OT procedure, produces so much of waste that is generated by a family of 4 in a week's time, which means that all the packaging, all the non-biodegradable products that we use in a procedure are adding to a waste problem. And that waste, a lot of it ends up in landfills. And what happens in landfills? In landfills, it becomes a key source of methane production. Methane impacts is a major greenhouse gas. It is impacting the climate. So waste management probably is one area where the healthcare industry needs to work together. If you look at even a single product, and I'm sure if whenever you go, you see there leave behind the product itself, and then the product manual, and the plastic packaging which comes in another box, which comes in a bigger box. We have to look at that problem. I think this 85% of this waste, which is unregulated across the world, enters into our water systems. So it's not only the environment or the air that we're breathing is getting impacted, but it's also the water that we're drinking. Next. So here I come to my point again, where I'm trying to say that, if you're a healthcare professional who is conscious about environment, you have to look at the organizations whose products you're using, the manufacturing, the supply chains that that are causing I would say a bigger threat, that are posing a bigger threat to the environment. And at Baxter, and this entire data is actually publicly available because it is part of the corporate social responsibility PDF that is, you can just Google it and get all the details. The idea here is that you understand that Baxter, as a big manufacturer, which has a Baxter itself has a big impact on greenhouse gas emissions. If you look at this number here, which is around 4.4 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent that is released by Baxter itself, we are looking at 7% reduction on an year-on-year basis, and we are looking at reducing it to further 25 to 30% by 2030. We have strong goals when it comes to reducing our impact. And this is what it's going to actually have a larger impact rather than just stop using one single product. And this impact we are creating, this reduction we are creating across our manufacturing facilities across the world. Next. Further, this is more information around, the greenhouse gas emissions. So again, Even the electricity that Baxter uses, 96% comes from renewable sources. There is a reduction target on water and energy consumption that Baxter has. Also, Baxter has been rated by third-party agencies called the CDP list, which measures the sustainability impact of organizations, and we rank 179 over thousands of companies that were rated on our efforts to reduce our carbon emissions, to reduce our environmental impact. So we are serious about it. So as manufacturers of inhaled anesthetics, we take our responsibility to protect our planet, our patients, and environment seriously. Next. Finally, this is more information on exactly what Baxter wants to talk about, when we talk about our climate action roadmap. So one of the challenges that I'm facing in terms of creating a training for the sales team is how do I take this, I would say, corporate social responsibility information and make it simpler for our sales and marketing teams to understand and to be able to present it to the customers. So hopefully we will be able to, achieve that messaging goal, because I think this is an important message that we need to put out, that it's not only the use of the product but also the entire ecosystem, the entire life cycle of the product that we have to look at. And Baxter is a responsible organization. Whichever product you use, we are looking at our own processes and are critical of those and are committed to sustainable anesthesia. Next. So again, some more information around that. Next. All this information is available on Baxter's sustainability site. Another point that I quickly want to make is, a lot of people at least in my region, are moving on to Tiva, thinking that propofol is a more environmentally, less harmful. It is less harmful for the environment. But in reality, if it is not causing a greenhouse gas effect directly, it still is a toxic bioaccumulative agent that gets into our water streams and gets into aquatic life and is harming the aquatic ecosystems. More than 86% of this product, whenever it is used, enters into the water streams, whether because of the way it is discarded or through the patient's body, which means that there is very little being done to control the wastage. Propofol, even amongst all the other products that are used inside an OT for anesthesia, this is the most discarded, or the highest volume of all the anesthetic waste comes from 45% comes from propofol. Also, when we look at the production of Tiva, 10% of it has has soy, which means that it has soybean oil, which means that there is an indirect impact from deforestation, from agriculture, which comes because it is soybean oil is required for propofol manufacture. So there is no product really that is blameless and that does not cause an impact on the environment. In fact, one of my HCPs during his webinar famously said that if you don't want to have a harmful impact on the environment, you should stop treating patients, because everything that we do actually has an impact. We have to balance it out. Next. Sure. And this is my last slide. You can look at it and see that what are the points that ways in which an anesthetist can become more conscious and can help in reducing their greenhouse gas effect or carbon footprint. So these are just guiding principles, and we can of course elaborate, but in interest of time, I won't go through it. So that's it from me. Happy to take any questions or any points that you want to raise. Michelle, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Amia. Appreciate it. And really, it's very important. And I think the main message here is the balance between, first, is the patient benefits and the claimed environmental issue. And the second point, how size of this environmental of Soprain compared to the others? Because we know that we agree there is some impact, but everything we are using in our life has an impact. This is my point. Our cars having an impact, our aeroplanes we are using to travel having an impact, our cooking at home having an impact, something like that. So
Our
this is the
breathing has
point.
an impact.
Exactly. So how much really the size of the Supreme versus the others is number one, and the patient benefits versus this environmental issue difference, because this is critically
Absolutely.
important. So maybe I'm not sure if we have any questions from people attending with us, or any points they need to ask about, because we're still having 12 minutes to come through. So any questions? Maybe I'm not sure if they have anything. Anyone pulled the question, or anyone would like to mention any questions?
In fact, an important discussion, Michelle, that we are trying to have is that as Baxter is trying to reduce the carbon dioxide equivalent. So if we can in some way equate it, that we are trying to reduce it by 7%, if we can equate it to actual soprane's impact on the environment, I think that will be a great data to have. Of course, that is some mathematical extrapolation that we will have to do, and
Mhm.
probably if we can pull that off and share with our HCPs that we are balancing it out in some way, I think that will be a great next step. Because as you know, in APAC also, gas capture technology is not possible right now due to logistic and regulatory challenges, and we are not
Mhm.
able to launch it. So for us, this messaging is important. We are trying to constantly improve on it and train as much people as possible.
And this was my second question about gas capture, because we may be starting a pilot
In
in
Poland.
Poland and Czech Republic as well, and we'll see what will be. But again, we are using this as some sort of a new product development. It is not something like we are giving for free for the hospitals just to use Supreme, because it's expensive, to be honest. And this is the point here. Yes, we have this option, we have this solution we are trying to use, but we'll see. We need to sell it to the customers. We just need to
No,
not
I
to
agree.
say that we don't have it. So this is the point, and again, may work in some markets, but may not on all other markets.
No, I agree. I think because environment noise is very high right now, and if the anesthetist is very convinced, it's very difficult to bring that conviction
Mhm.
back to Supreme.
Okay, great. And we have a question here. Do you have any materials we can use in ecology discussion? Yeah, with HCPs. Do you have any materials? Because I think this is another point, because how we can respond officially to the. Do you have any materials in APAC region you are using
We have
currently?
not created any specific material. We are trying. We are in the process, but again, we are in the process of identifying the right messaging, the right point that will actually impact. So again, it is work in progress, and as soon as I have something, Michelle, I'll share it with the
Thank you.
team.
We have some, by the way, from global people, but again,
Yeah.
it is mixed between three things. Our global colleagues, first, sovereign benefits, because we believe this will be much higher than, I would say, the impact on the environment. The second is that, because again, the environmental issue, it is not pure medical, not pure
Yes.
marketing. This is the environmental issue. It is different, because each one can calculate based on his own assumptions. If you, any of us, read the materials that our competitors using, or the claims against environment, we will see that this material is using either very high flow rates of soprene, either using unlogic assumptions for soprene, and some sort like mathematical and logarithmic calculations, but no one can say that this exactly we calculated it in the right exact way. This is at least my feedback and my personal understanding. And based on that, also we reply with something to what is the magnitude, and this also some assumptions compared with the global environmental or global greenhouse effect and soprene to it. And this is takes some time for approvals, because again, as I mentioned, not
Yeah.
pure medical, not pure
Yes.
marketing, and we need to go the right source who can approve what we say
Exactly.
and we claim in our
Exactly.
brochures. And this is a challenge I am sharing with the team now.
No, this is actually the challenge, because what is the kind of information that we are putting out there, and what is the evidence. So this is all the evidence that I've collected, but it has to go through that process, and so we do not have environment experts in that sense who can really bring it down. So the idea here is, team, that instead of doing an all-and-out campaign, what we're trying to do is do peer-to-peer, person-to-person discussion, that when an HCP raises this question, you go and have that detailed discussion. You go and share these claims, and of course this marketing material, if, at least the papers that we have, which are available openly on Google. So the idea is to have that discussion instead of launching a big campaign, because we probably are not ready with that complete information deck. And of course, I'm also working with Global, hoping to find that solution. We don't have it right now.
Perfect. And I think two nice questions. Maybe I see. Okay, one comment, nice comment, that this is very interesting. Will it be translated into a marketing campaign? I think we are working on that global. I mean, from all aspects, we try to, as I mentioned, we try to put
Yeah,
things in
yeah,
approved way to share with KOLs. Another suggestion, as I can see, is it possible to have global webinar focused on explaining the impact, for example, in 1 or 2 sessions, in 1 hour session? uh, we do this as a part of most of our, I would say, campaigns or webinars, or even customers, I would say, speakers tour, all these things. I remember that some time ago we had the same in Dubai, and we have Professor Pringle speaking about them. I think Professor Peter Kimbom as well, because both having some sort like the gas capture, and they are so fans
yeah.
of Supreme. This is from my side. I'm not sure, I mean, if you have any, but we can do something. Is something requested? I think for ISME at least we can do. Maybe I may have any
Yeah, I
comment
think
for
I
that.
think that's the best way. I think that's the best way, when you have somebody who uses Suprain, talk about how do you balance it out. But
Yes,
because it is
yes.
about real lives and a minimum, or an unproven impact of
Hmm.
desflurane.
Hmm.
I would even say that, it's a claim, it's a mathematical extrapolation, it's a chemical structure analysis of desflurane, and they said that okay, probably it lasts in the environment for so many years. It's a report, or it's a data that has been referred to or referenced to multiple times, and that is why it is seeming like truth, or the true
Hmm.
measure. But in
Yeah.
reality, it probably is not. So that coming from HCPs, I think it's the most powerful tool that we have.
And
I
also,
think
this is coming to another question here. If we are saying that is 1%, the Supreme said anesthetics make about 1% of greenhouse gases. How can we
this
say
is also a
since?
mathematical extrapolation. It is actually 0.006% is all inhaled anesthetics, which has
Mhm.
desflurane, sevoflurane. So when we say 10 teaspoons, it is when you put the entire 52 billion tons of carbon dioxide in a swimming pool equivalent. It's not,
Mm.
versus that. It is when you put it, it's like again, it's the same mathematical extrapolation that they are trying to do, that we are trying to counter it, that it's so minimal that if you put it
Mhm.
in a swimming pool, an Olympic size swimming pool, then it is teaspoons, not 10 teaspoons of the gas.
And
So,
not only Supreme, this means that all inhaled anesthetics,
yes,
including nitrous oxide,
yes,
including Supreme, including some countries
yes.
using halothane till the moment,
Isoflurane,
maybe
SIBO,
isoflurane, which is used
halothane.
heavily, isoflurane. Yeah.
Yes,
So Supreme is portion of it, because we know globally Supreme market share is around 30%, something like that. So if we calculate
exactly.
this 1%, it is 30% of this 1%, so something like that. So
0.006%.
yeah, this
Exactly.
is
It's
okay.
that minimal.
Yeah. So this is exactly okay. I think no other questions. So maybe we come to summarize. And first, I apologize again for the delay at the start, because we had technical issue from my side to
No
connect.
problem.
And also, we would like to thank Amia very much for her support, for her time, for sharing experience in her region, because IPAC region having more or less the same claims we are facing. And by the way, the same diversity in the markets. We have Australia very advanced, and some other markets less advanced. So it is more or less very near
Yeah,
to the ISIMIA. So it's great that we get some experience, some understanding how this works. But again, it is work happening everywhere. But what, as I shared you at the start, we're still growing Supreme, and we'll not stop using Supreme, at least in most of our regions, because we believe in its patient benefits, which is confirmed, and we should not stop because of some environmental claims, which is not fully confirmed and understood. To be honest with you.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you have any last comments before we close this great session.
No, thank you so much for this chance, and I welcome any or all questions. We need to proofread this material before it goes out, so feel free to write to me, ping me on Teams and we can have a discussion anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amia. Thank you for the audience. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. And this is short session for anesthesia this time, but this is not meaning that we are not focusing, but because of the my responsibility for anesthesia and acute at the same time. Thank you very much, and see you in coming marketing summit. Thank you. Have a nice rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.